Hello everyone, welcome back to my lecture series on strategic management, and we are in chapter 5. And so far we discussed what are business level strategies and what are Porter's generic strategies in the first video. And in this video we will focus on how to implement strategy, strategic implementation, what is the meaning of strategic implementation, and then strategy formulation and implementation process, and also managing the challenges related to a strategy implementation. So this is strategy implementation. Okay, strategy implementation. Sorry, guys. Okay, this is a strategy implementation. Strategy implementation is a process through which a strategy is put into action. So whatever strategy we make, it is just a piece of paper, right? It is a piece of paper. It will be on paper, whatever strategies are made. That should be put into an action. How to put that into action is a implementation process. Without implementing strategy, if you just prepare a strategy, there is no use of it. So we have to put strategy into an action. So that process is called as strategy implementation. Whenever we formulate the strategy, when strategy like analyzing internal environment, external environment, knowing our strength, knowing the life cycle of the industry, what is our market share, everything, then we come up the strategy for the company. So company should produce this goods, target this particular area, target particular customer base. Everything will be decided, and each department should do this task, everything, right? That is all strategy is formulated. But now the next step is we have to implement, we have to bring that into an action. So strategy formulation is a promise. It is just a promise document that company is going to achieve all these things. This is how company is going to achieve anything. But that strategy should be put in action or put it into a performance. That is called as strategy implementation. Okay. In every real life scenario, this is a always very important to bring strategy into an action. So where strategy formulation is the intellectual process, where we discuss with multiple team members, we do analysis of environment, and then put it in. A lot of thought process goes there. So strategy formulation is an intellectual process, whereas strategic implementation is more of operational in nature. Okay, strategic implementation is more of operational in nature. We have to how to implement this, right? How we make strategy to work is part of strategy implementation work, but strategy formulation is always is strategy formulation is always an intellectual process. And you might have prepared very good strategy on paper. With we do this, we are achieving it, we will be number one, we capture that market, it is a market differentiation for us. Everything that can be there in a strategy, and that is a very good strategy. Unless you do a effective implementation, it is a futile or a waste exercise for an organization. Okay. There is no, if you are not implementing it properly, then it is a waste futile exercise for an organization. So it is very important to implement strategies once these all are made and approved by all the business units. Okay, all the business heads or leaders. So what is that strategy implementation takes? Strategy implementation takes coordinated effort of people, structures, processes, and resources in the organization to achieve organization objectives. It requires lot of coordination effort within the organization, like with the people, other departments, other sections of organization, vendors, customers. A lot of coordination efforts are required to achieve organization objectives, and also to build or implement strategy. Okay. Strategy implementation, it also includes securing resources. We may not have required resources to implement strategy. So strategy implementation also includes strategy, securing resources, organizing those resources, and directing them to use the resources within and outside the organization. So this is all about strategy implementation. Okay. So it is a coordinated effort of a lot of people within organization, outside organization, and also securing resources, whatever is required, organizing those resources in a proper way. So all these things will be a part of strategy implementation. There are two things which strategy, while implementing strategy, we will be considering. One is fit between strategy and functional policies. So whatever functional policies we make, that should be in alignment with the corporate strategies which are made at a top level and fit between strategy and the organization structure, process, and system. So we have to bring in whatever strategies are made that should be meeting the requirement of organizational structure, processes, and system. These 2 points should be kept in mind while implementing strategies. Here are some definitions for strategic implementation. According to Glueck, strategy implementation is the assignment or reassignment of corporate and strategic business unit leaders to match the strategy. Okay. So once the strategy is made, so strategy implementation makes sure that corporate and strategic business unit leaders are going to execute it. They should match the strategy. And the leaders will communicate the strategy to the employees. That the strategies, whatever is made, it is not for book entry only. It should be communicated to employees. Implementation also involves development of functional policies. Once the strategy, corporate level strategy, business level strategies are done, business level strategies. So functional policies or functional strategies are part of strategy implementation. So functional policies are nothing but what each department is going to do, how they are going to do, and what if deviation is there, how can they get approvals for this thing. Everything will be there in functional policies. Okay. Why all this strategic implementation will be taken care? Because to achieve organizational objectives. Clear, guys? According to Bloomberg, first thing, it will align corporate and strategic business unit leaders to the strategy. Second, it will allow to communicate the strategy to employees, and it will help. It also includes implementation of or a development of functional policies, and uh, then closely work with organization structure and other things for achieving organizational goals. Charles W. L. Hill and Gareth, they defined strategy implementation as the way in which company creates the organizational arrangement. Okay, so it is very important, very simple definition here. So how company will arrange themselves, like, okay, once the strategy is made, the strategy document is ready. Okay, how organization will arrange itself to achieve this strategy. So the way in which a company creates the organizational arrangement that allow it to put its strategic plan into operation. So we have a strategy document, how company will be rearranged to put this into an action, put a strategy into an action. Why we are going to put this into action? To achieve business objectives. So the other definition given by Alex Miller and Gregory G. Dress, strategy implementation involves a broad range of efforts aimed at transforming strategic intention to actions. So very, very important term here, intention to action. Okay. Strategy is a just intention, what we want to do, but action is important. So this action is part of our implementation. Okay, guys. So this is a definition of strategy implementation. So putting everything in action, and it is very, very important because strategy formulation is just an intellectual exercise, but implementation is most important. It is an operational exercise. Without implementation, whatever the strategy, like whether it is a good, bad, and other thing, it is a useless for company. So implementation is a must step. So what are the factors or supporting factors for strategy implementation? The first one is action planning. There should be a proper planning in an organization to support the implementation of strategy. If there is no plan, then it is very difficult to execute it. So what is plan? Plan is a list of chronological list of actions. Okay, serially to implement what we have to do. What is the first step? What is the next step? What is the third, fourth? It is a more tactical, line by line, minute level detail actions. Who is the owner of this? Who is responsible to execute that particular task? And what is the expected date? The proper planning should be made for a successful implementation of strategy. Then the second one is organizational structure. To support the implementation of strategy, there should be a solid organization structure which everybody's roles are defined, who is managing this particular project, and what are the exceptions comes, who is the approver for it. Everything should be there as part of organization structure. And the third one is human resource factors, because to implement strategies, it is not enough that if we create organization structure, we also should position people there, right? So there should be a people. So we have to secure our resources for within organization or outside organization to implement these strategies. Okay, and then there should be a proper annual business plan. This one is a action plan. Whatever we talked earlier, there should be an annual business plan, and each of these annual business plan should be broken into a monthly, and that will help us in monitoring and control. So every month we monitor what is happening, whether it is as per target or not. If it is not, what control action needs to be taken, and all necessary actions to be taken. That will be covered in monitoring and control. Okay. Without monitoring, if the plan is made and if you say that 10,000 units of car to be produced and you leave it and it is made in April, and then after March next year, 24, you go and check whether 10,000 is produced or not, then your strategy is going to fail. So there should be a continuous monitoring every month. Are we on track or not? If it is not, what is the corrective course? That also should be taken into account. Okay, that's why it is a known fact that developing an effective strategy plan is only half the battle. Getting it implemented is the other half. So both have 50-50 priorities in any organization. So what are the issues we face while implementing strategy? All issues which are associated with the project implementation. So it requires coordinated effort. Any project implementation or a strategy implementation, it requires coordination with various departments, external parties, and other advisors, etc. So external parties nothing but your suppliers, customers, or your agents, right? So entire supply chain. So this requires a lot of things, and it is a lot of uncertainties will be there in project implementation. So all those things are challenges in implementation of strategy. And then procedural implementation. So there is a process to be followed, and that process involves again coordination with all these parties, and then there is a list of tasks, which is very, very difficult to manage this implementation. And non-availability of organization structure. So then again, it makes strategy implementation more difficult. If there is no procedural document, if there is no organization structure, if there is no proper resource allocation, though your project plan says that we should have 100 people to implement, in reality, you may get 70 or 60. And after that, the quality of this 60 may not be as your expectation. So this resource allocation is another bigger challenge in implementing strategy. Non-availability of functional policies, and there is if there is no proper communication strategy. So this is important for change management. We will discuss in next slide. So if there is no proper communication, you have done a strategy in a boardroom and given it to a manager to do that, and he start doing something. The bottom, these people are not aware that what this manager is doing. So in that way, everything will get collapse. Same way, lack of leadership skills, okay, and change management issue. Change management means people in an organization are not ready to take a new challenges, new initiatives, etc. So that creates a lot of challenges. Okay. Pre-implementation evaluation of strategy. So before implementing a strategy, there should be some amount of analysis that if it is missing, then again it is a challenge. So these are the challenges. Okay. Project implementation itself is a challenge because of coordination of effort, non-availability of procedures for implementation, no lack of organization structure, no proper resource allocation, no unprepared functional or a semi-prepared functional policies. There is no communication strategy, lack of leadership, challenges to change. All these things are issues with respect to a strategy implementation. So how do we manage strategic changes? Very, very important. As I said, strategies will be made in boardroom, AC room. Then it will be communicated to SPU leaders. Then leaders like project managers, section heads, etc. Then it will go to a bottom. Okay. Whenever strategies are made, that should be properly communicated to the entire people who are going to get impacted. And because it required support from everyone, from bottom to up or top to bottom, whatever the way, that there should be a coordinated effort is required. That's why giving a proper training, education, etc., to everyone who is involved in the implementation, not only who is involved, we also should be considering who all are affected also. Whenever we make policies, some people will work in that, but some people will get affected also. So those parties also should be involved in it. Okay. So education and a constant communication to every stakeholder is must for effective strategic change management. Second one, participation. So when we do a proper communication to everyone, then there should be participation from everyone from bottom to up or a bottom to top in the success of implementing this strategy. So there should be contribution from everyone. So to make sure that everyone is contributing it, create a take commitment from everyone in this value chain, make sure that they provide required contribution. Contribution in the implementation of strategy. Fourth one, strategic leader. The next section, we are going to talk about strategic leader in detail. So proper leadership is required who will ensure that these communications are taken care and everyone is participating and everyone is committed to contribute for strategic changes. So we need strategic leader and provide required training to everyone. Certain things might be new, so it is necessary to provide required training to every employee and also give some psychological counseling. And the last one is coercion and